Hello everyone, I'm Maria and welcome to my Nook. Today, this video will be all about the books that I've read in May and June. Just a quick information, because I have decided that I will most probably film my reviews all throughout the months shortly after finishing the books, so we will probably jump through time and places a little bit as you see me finishing the books and filming the reviews, just so you know. But right now we are starting with a book that I actually finished in April. I just didn't include it in my last wrap-up video because I didn't expect finishing it in April. But that is The Love Hypothesis by Hazelwood, and I really just devoured this book. I ate it up. I inhaled it. Do you need me to find another metaphor to tell you just how quickly I read this book? I love this book. I loved this book to pieces. The romance between Adam and Olive was so amazing. The tension and the build-up and this whole fake dating turning into a real thing and everything was so amazing. I really think that the whole fake dating trope is one of my favorites now because of this book. And this book did not disappoint. It had such a huge hype and it did not disappoint. I enjoyed it so much. It was so sweet and funny and nerdy. It was just everything I could have wished for and more, and I enjoyed it so much, and I can definitely see myself rereading this at some points because I do think that this is one of my comfort reads now. I just love this book so much and I gave it 5 stars. Easily. The first book I read in May actually was The Ex Hex by Erin Sterling. This book I was actually pretty excited for, as you probably saw in my TBR list video. I really liked the idea behind this book. It's about this young witch that accidentally cursed her ex after being totally heartbroken, and it ends in misery and disaster, and they try to fix it together. I was really looking forward to this book, but it really disappointed me actually. As I said, I really liked the idea of this book, and I also really liked the world building and the plot in general, and I also really enjoyed reading about the characters themselves. I think Vivian, the female main character, is such a badass witch. She's really smart and funny and brave, and Reese, I'm not sure, but the male main character, Reese, was so funny and snarky, and he was also smart and everything, and he had a whole business himself and he was good at what he did. Vivian's cousin and her aunt were so cool, and just there were so many amazing characters in this book, which made me enjoy it. But the romance part of it was just so... it felt so surface level for me personally, because most of the time they were really just being horny teenagers basically, and most of the time it was really just about how hot the other was. There was two points of views, both from Vivi and Reese. I mean, granted, they hadn't seen each other in, I think it was 9 years. So they were basically strangers, but I felt like their connection never really got deeper throughout the book. They kind of just stayed on the surface level physical attraction. And at some point I actually felt like Vivian, the female main character, didn't get enough time to shine, because as I said, she was an amazing character. But at some point I felt like all of that was kind of put aside, so her entire personality was just, oh my god, Reese Penhallow is so hot. And they said it so much, they mentioned it so often, that I was like, oh my god, I get it, can you shut up about it? It annoyed me at some point. And that's just really not what's supposed to happen while reading a book. So yeah, I think the plot as such, the whole witchery stuff and everything was cool. I did like the characters and their banter and their humor. The romance was probably not my type of romance, but if you enjoy that kind of romance, it was very steamy. It was very steamy, I have to say that. So if you enjoy that, maybe this book is for you. But it was not for me. Also, this whole betrothed thing, that actually was the whole point of this plot in the first place, because it was what broke Vivi's heart, and it was never talked about again. Reese just came back and Vivi never asked about it, and he never spoke about it. My impression was, from a few comments, that Reese went back to Wales to end it, but then why did he never tell Vivi? Why did he go 9 years without doing anything about it? And they never talked about it again. What happened there? This whole betrothed thing was the whole point of this plot, basically. He said she never got to hear his part of the story, but neither did we, which is a little weird. So yeah, I don't know. I gave this book 2.75 stars. After that, I read, or rather listened to, a book that absolutely knocked me off of my feet. I listened to the audiobook of Under One Roof by Ellie Hazelwood, which was narrated by, let me check, Emma Wilder, who was a fantastic narrator, by the way, so kudos to her, and probably the whole team that was behind this audiobook. I instantly fell in love with Mara, who was the female main character in this book, and I also instantly fell in love with Sadie and Hannah, who are her two best friends. Under One Roof is part of 3 novellas. It's not exactly a trilogy, but it's sort of a series, I think, by Ellie Hazelwood, where each book is about one of the 3 friends, as far as I know. I instantly fell in love with her 2 friends as well. They sounded so sweet. I absolutely loved this book. I basically devoured it as well, and it made it very clear for me that I love Ellie Hazelwood's writing style. It was basically written from past to present, so it went from, I think, 3 months ago, and then 2 months ago, and then 1 month ago, and there was way more smaller steps, but just so you get the idea. And then it was present, and I just loved it. Really, the only bad thing I could find about it was that it was so short. Because I want more about Mara. But I guess I can find more about her in the next Staminist novella. I already have it on hold at my library. The next one is Stuck With You. And I cannot wait to be listening to that audiobook. I cannot wait. I gave Under One Roof 5 stars. The last book I finished in May was Book Lovers by Emily Henry. It was also published at the start of May, so I'm really glad that I still managed to finish it in May. When I got it in the book mail, I first thought this cover kind of has an odd feeling to it, but I think I got used to it and it's not that bad anymore. At first, I wasn't sure if I would like Nora, but Emily Henry very quickly changed my mind on that. Nora Stevens might be a shark in the book business, but there's so much more to Private Nora, and she did go through quite the character development throughout this book, which was amazing to see. And I really liked the chemistry between Nora and Charlie, and I loved how Charlie was the one that kind of glanced through Nora's walls, and I really liked how they both dropped their professional walls when they were around each other. And now I finally understand how so many people say that this was almost more about sisterhood and family than it was about romance. Even though I have no idea what it's like to be so close to a sibling, Emily Henry really did a great job at transferring the whole feeling of it. And also being a creative person and writing myself and wanting to tell stories myself, I really liked the reasons that Emily Henry described in the behind the book, why she wrote this book. And I like how that story turned out, so I gave it 4 stars. I just got home from a vacation. I did read an astonishing amount of 3 books on my vacation. I was on vacation for 11 days and I read 3 books. I normally finish about 2 books per month. This is crazy. So yeah, alright, here we go. The first book I finished on my vacation was Tweet Cute by Emma Lord. It's about Pepper and Jack, basically, who go to the same high school. I don't want to give away too much in case some of you don't want to go into books with too much information, but something happens and they get into a Twitter war together between the Twitter account of Pepper's parents' franchise and the Twitter account of Jack's parents' deli. It's kind of complicated, but it all makes sense in the book. And yeah, maybe other stuff happens, you know. This was a really fun and cute and light read. I also listened to the audiobook. Just, you know, sometimes I was reading it and sometimes while I was out and about I was listening to the audiobook, and the audiobook was great. We are getting
both points of views, both from Pepper and from Jack in this book, which is great. Therefore, we are also getting 2 narrators in the audiobook, and the narrator for Jack, Chef's Kiss. Chef's Kiss. Dan Bittner, I believe, is his name. Amazing. Amazing. I had a few good laughs in this book. That's always a great sign. For the fact that we did get both points of views, I kind of thought that Jack's backstory could have been a little deeper compared to Pepper's, if that makes any sense. But overall, I feel like this whole high school experience and friendships being clumsy and crushes and hobbies and homework and managing and all that kind of stuff and everything was delivered very well, and that high school hasn't been that long ago for me, and this whole feeling really came back to me through this book, and I really enjoyed this one. I gave it 4 stars. After that, I read, or rather listened to, Stuck With You by Hazelwood, which is... I listened to the audiobook. The narrative was alternating between the past, 3 weeks ago, and the present, which I found pretty interesting. And I mean, I had already loved Sadie from Under One Roof. Stuck With You is part of 3 novellas written by Hazelwood: Under One Roof, Stuck With You, and Below Zero. And I already knew that I loved Sadie from Under One Roof, and now I just knew that I loved her even more. She's so amazing, and I just fell in love with their friendship, and Eric was nice too. Yeah, I really enjoyed this book, and I gave it 5 stars. After that, I read something that was on my shelf for so long. I'm telling you, so long. And I don't actually know why I didn't even put it off for that long. There was just other books that I had been more in the mood for, or I wanted to read more, but I finally picked it up. My first Christina Lauren book, The Unhoneymooners. And I was a bit wary of it at the beginning, because a lot of people love Christina Lauren and a lot of people love The Unhoneymooners, so I was like, oh gosh, what if I don't like this? But I really enjoyed it. I loved the Torres family. If you don't know, that's the family of the female main character. They were just amazing. I mean, they obviously have their flaws, as do the main characters, but this whole family, I just loved them, and I loved reading about them. I obviously loved the journey that Ethan and Olive went through. This whole book was so snarky and funny, and also really loved how Ethan and Olive kept calling each other by different names that started with their initials. Like Ethan would call her Oscar and she would call him Ezra and stuff. I like those little details. At the end, I thought the book was gonna be done and there was like over 100 pages left, and then a whole new plot line started, which was a bit weird at first, and I felt like the book was kind of slowing down at that point. So in my opinion, the book could have been a good 50 pages or so shorter, but I still really enjoyed it overall. And something that I also want to mention is that while reading the acknowledgements at the back of the book, it really hit me that I just read a story about people that are not real. And the acknowledgements really made it clear for me that I just read a fictional book. Jesus. But that's a very good point for this book, the fact that I kind of just forgot that I was reading a book. I gave it 3.8-ish stars in the end.
So a few days ago, I finished Once Upon a Broken Heart by Stephanie Garber. First of all, this cover, look at it, so beautiful. It's just magnificent, honestly. I love this cover. But also on another note, this book is huge. For a paperback, this book is huge. Yeah, the reason why it took me a couple of days to film this review is because I'm a little torn. I'm a little torn whether I liked this book or not. And I think ultimately I just have to allow myself to settle on the compromise that I liked certain aspects of this book and I did not like certain other aspects of this book. I think I really liked the plot overall of this book, and I really liked certain characters in this book. There's, for example, the Prince of Hearts, one of the fates in this book, whom Evangeline, the female main character, had prayed to, and she asked him to mend her broken heart and help her to get her one true love back. He obviously wanted something in return, which was 3 kisses, whenever, wherever, to whomever he wants her to give those kisses. That was the deal they made. And I really liked the idea of that. I had read somewhere that this is sort of part of the Caravel series, but sort of a standalone. I still dove into it, and I feel like you can understand this book without having read the whole Caravel series. I did find a few reviews that said, oh, it was so nice to revisit some of the characters and find out where they are now, which really intrigued me and made me curious. So I did order the first book from the Caravel series, so let's see what that's about. But yeah, about this book, I really liked the world building and I liked the plot overall. I really liked the Prince of Hearts, and there were certain other characters that I really liked, and I wish they would have gotten more page time. You know, not screen time, but page time. I wish I could read more about them. Because the female main character in this book is just, I feel like she is not really my type of person, maybe. She was just very naive, I felt like. And maybe she had a little bit of Disney princess syndrome. Maybe that's a good way to put it into words. As I said, it took me a couple of days before I was ready to film this review, so I really tried to process The female main character in this book, Evangeline, she does a few things where I just thought, oh my god, girl, just leave it be and be happy. But she was like, but no, I must because it's right. And I was like, no, just be happy with what you have right now. And she went, no, I must because it's right. And she kind of stood in her own way, which obviously moved the plot along. I feel like there could have been other ways that could have moved the plot along. So that was a bit eh. Overall, I also really enjoyed the things that were revealed in the end. Damn. Damn. I also had picked it up because I had been reading a lot of romance books lately and I was really in the mood for a fantasy book. So I think I would give this like 3 stars-ish. Very torn, still very difficult. I found out that there will be a sequel for this. I think I'll also be reading this because this book ended on a cliffhanger and I hate it for that, but I will probably be reading the sequel for that exact reason.
I just finished the last book of June, literally like 15 minutes ago, and that is The Spanish Love Deception by Elena Armas. And oh my god. I usually don't do reviews this short after finishing a book, but oh my god, I just have to talk about this book because holy moly. This book, wow. I enjoyed this book so much. The build-up at the start felt a little bit slow for me, but as soon as they were in Spain, I loved it. I liked both Catalina and Erin right from the start, and as soon as they got into the real banter and the steam, oh my god. Erin freaking Blackford. Holy shit. I had seen so much about him online, so much fuss, and I get it now. I get it now. This guy, damn. He did not only sweep Catalina off her feet. I can say that much. I think for some people it might have felt like Catalina fell in love very quickly with him, but I think that Elena Armas made it all very believable, which made this book very enjoyable for me. Also, even though I don't usually like to compare books, given that The Love Deception and The Unhoneymooners did have kind of a similar plot, I really liked the whole conclusion of The Love Deception much more than the one in The Unhoneymooners. Yeah, and also the fact that I speak a little bit of Spanish really made The Spanish Love Deception that much more fun. And I just really enjoyed reading this book and spending time with these characters. Just the kind of slow start made it a little hard for me to get into it, but I really loved the rest of it, so I give this book 4 stars. And I'm also really excited. There's a second book of Elena Armas coming out, I think this year. The American Roommate Experiment,
which is basically about the best friend of Catalina and her cousin, and I am so excited. I am absolutely going to read that book. And that is it for today's video. Those were all the books that I read in May and June. I hope you enjoyed this video. Maybe tell me in the comments which books you have read in May and or June. And I will see you guys somewhere else on the internet. Bye!